They've been spending most their lives living in a psychic's paradise. They killed my agent and that ain't nice, living in a psychic's paradise. We're all members of the Phoenix Five, living in a psychic's paradise. We've used Cerebro once or twice, living in a psychic's paradise. What is up YouTube, it's Kingfisher745, and in this video we're going to take a look at Team Dangerous Minds. This incredible team name and graphic inspired that intro, and if you want you can find the full version on iTunes between Never and the next Ice Age. And speaking of that, I think the past Ice Age was when this team was first used. But very similar to the last video, we had this incredible graphic made. But this time it was by a professional, and I always liked the team name that I gave them. But anyways, I wanted to make a video with these two in action, and utilizing all the new Psychic ISO that's available. So here it is, the old tried and true team in today's PvP. But one last thing before we begin, this video was brought to you in part by Agent Seraph One. So can we hear it for him?
Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
Man, we weren't even done cheering and the enemy already attacked us, and with the Phoenix Pinion, are they mocking us or what? I can't even believe it, but the good news is our agent gets to go next. So after using the Neuro Purge, we're then going to use a signpost, followed by the incredible Fire Tornado. After that, I do have to say this setup is quite good, however, we don't have an every turn weapon, and that's one thing I like to stay away from if I can. I think in this case the Deathly Freeze Ray is worth it, but it does have a cooldown, so that means we won't have an attack next turn. That is, outside the signpost and the weather control device, which I suppose isn't too shabby. Now with my agent protecting against Red Hulk, he's going to take a Bunker Buster, and that Pyrophoric is going to be a problem. But there's nothing much we can do about it, although on Phoenix's turn we're going to use Mind Link on Emma Frost. With that, maybe we can get Emma Frost with her diamond body to protect from time to time. She of course is very hard to damage, especially with her eternal E-ISO that gives her Diamonds Are Forever. Diamond body no longer triggers organic recovery. And then on top of that, she is an infiltrator, so she will get some counters against these tacticians. Then with Emma Frost up next, we have the Manifesting A-ISO on our Unlocked Potential, and this causes a buff ability to grant Epiphany. Basically what that means is the next attack will be a guaranteed crit. Then speaking of that next attack, it's going to be our level 9 Mental Trauma. And on that attack we have the Maddening Augmented ISO 8. The John Maddening A-ISO if you will. Boom, they're going to get up looking out their ear hole. After this AoE attack, the evil enemy agent's going to get one action and one action alone. Unfortunately, they use the worst thing, and that's Fire Tornado. That means our team is exhausted, and there goes a Pyrophoric. At least we do get a Psychic Tap counter though. And with our single action, we're going to use Fire Tornado right back. The AI had the right idea, you gotta keep those enemies exhausted at all costs. After that, the enemy Red Hulk is going to go with a Gamma Bomb. So that's bad by itself. Sadly, this does trigger a meltdown, and that's going to cause Pyrophoric to go off, basically almost killing our agent. The only silver lining is that we get a Deathly Freeze Ray counter, and first of all you will notice that it does cause Flash Freeze. It's one additional bonus to using the Deathly Freeze Ray in contrast to the weather control device. More specifically the Fire Tornado. See, after your second use of the Fire Tornado you're going to cause Scorched, and when this is consumed by ice attacks it deals extra damage. So that's why the Deathly Freeze Ray triggers Flash Freeze. Alright, and this part right here should be familiar because this is how we started the video. Unfortunately this time around will be without the soothing vocals of the Kingfisher, but hey, you still have my play-by-play. At this point, Phoenix is going to easily finish off Beast, and she triggers Death and Rebirth, but that won't matter for this fight. However, Emma Frost is going to end Red Hulk with a Mental Trauma. It's obviously my go-to move with Emma, and we only needed a little bit of damage, so I figured why not. After this, we're going to have a very popular team right now in PvP, and that of course is Invisible Woman and Molly Hayes. So the bad news is it may take a while to beat them, but the good news is we should be able to. For one, I do have the Bursting A-ISO on Phoenix's level 2. This causes an equipped range action to apply Shield Breaker. So we only need to make sure we hit Molly Hayes with that, and then exhaust her before she uses Temper Tantrum. You'll hopefully see what I mean when we get there. That is, if everything goes right. With my agent, we do have a pretty tricky route because, of course, we can't place debuffs once they have a shield, and once they get a shield, they wipe them anyways. So pretty much we're going to play a pretty safe, slow game, and I'll try to not use pretty enough at least for another minute or so. Except for that time. I blame Fashland for that one. Alright, on Emma's turn. I really don't know what I was going for here. There was no reason to try to debuff them, but I should have just tried mental trauma. Instead, we're going to try to break through the agent shield by using our level 2. Great idea, I know. And that fails miserably. At least on their turn, the AI decides to use Blackest Void and Blackest Void alone. Then with our Phoenix, we're going to use Mind Link on Emma Frost, and then Telekinesis to break that shield of Molly Hayes. It does hit for a decent amount of damage, and most importantly it places Shield Breaker on her. So with that debuff, we can go ahead and exhaust her. Then we might as well use the Signpost, and then our only debate is whether or not to use the Deathly Freeze Ray. The reason I debate this is because, well, for one, Invisible Woman's going to counter, and she's hitting quite hard. 2, we're only going to be able to debuff the enemy Molly Hayes, and she's already going to be sleeping. That is, of course, after she uses Temper Tantrum to no avail. But against my better judgment, I do use our Freeze Ray, and I guess because it just hurts me not to attack. For that, we're going to take a counter for over 7,000 damage. This enemy team must have a very impressive attack. But like I said, Molly Hayes isn't even going to attack us. And with Emma, we can go ahead and get rid of that Force Cage. After that, we're going to use Mental Trauma, and it does do a nice amount of damage on the entire enemy team. So take that, Invisible Woman, and your stupid shields. We just may have to bring Psychic back, and I think I just got an idea for my next hit. But anyways, now to get rid of that pesky Mirror Reality. First, we'll take care of Molly Hayes. Then after another attack from the Invisible Woman, we're going to use the Signpost from my agent, and then I guess we'll go ahead and recharge for now. Molly Hayes is going to be asleep, so that's going to be the end of her turn. And next up with Emma Frost, it's time for our Mental Trauma. This does take care of Mirror Reality, and it finishes off Molly Hayes. So far so good, but I'm dreading this turn from the enemy agent. They use quite a few quick actions, and even heal themselves back to almost full health. Well, certainly after this they are going to be right there. Oh, and they're not done, they're also going to use the Improbability Field as well. I did not expect that much from a Bruiser agent. But now that they're finally done, we do have Telekinesis back, and so we can apply Shield Breaker once again. The enemy agent can now finally be debuffed. Unfortunately, it's after his massive turn, or I should say after her massive turn. I mean, we are dealing with the one and only Hit Girl. Also, I'm sure you've noticed how much damage their Invisible Woman can do. It surprises me every time. That's why I went ahead and used the Warm Zephyr followed by the Signpost to try to regain some of our HP, even though Phoenix is definitely within one shot. With our Emma Frost, you can guess what we're going to use. First, Unlock Potential, and then a Mental Trauma. And I do love how it cuts right through a shield, although it's still not doing the damage that it did in the old days. Then surprisingly, the enemy agent's going to use an Atom Smasher. This does knock out Phoenix, but she gets Death and Rebirth, so that's actually going to be a good thing. Believe it or not, I have the Bursting A-ISO on her Phoenix Fire as well, and really I should have used something else, but hey, it's not going to hurt us in this fight. Man, and speaking of things not doing the damage that they used to, Phoenix Fire used to wreck an entire team. Here, it couldn't even finish 2 weakened enemies. That's disheartening. I figured we should have boosted its damage with an A-ISO, and that's what we're going to do next time. But yeah, for many seasons that move was a game changer, and her resurrection was unbeatable. Pretty much for every single fight it gave you one free death. She was much like the Cube in that you wanted to use her in every single team. But hey, those days are dead. Quicksilver on the other hand is still being used, even though it's not quite as much as it was. And of course it's a scrapper, but he's doing hardly any damage to our Emma Frost. Still, you know what? Where's this team when I'm using Iron Fist? I hardly ever see them. Man, why are the matchups so rigged? Well, one good thing I can tell you, they don't have the Mystic Shroud. So we're going to go ahead and apply Off Balance with the Neuropurge. Then we're going to use the Signpost. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and exhaust them because they do have a tactician agent. I know I could have applied winded and bleeding, but I'm not that worried about it. I'm just going to go ahead and exhaust them. After that, however, I will be using the Deathly Freeze Ray. Oh, and you know what? Something I could have pointed out earlier. You may want to use the Deathly Freeze Ray and then the Hailstorm. Obviously, you can't do that on the same turn because the Deathly Freeze Ray would end your turn, but in the next round you could, or if you're using the Tactician Empowered Costume, you then could use the Deathly Freeze Ray followed by the Hailstorm. Now you may ask, why is that worth pointing out? Well, because it's going to cause Frigid on the enemies, and that's a 2-round debuff that says quick actions become normal actions, and executed actions become locked out for 1 round. That is an incredible debuff to place on the entire enemy team, and it's something I should have focused on showing you a little bit more. Don't worry though, you're going to see plenty of that combination in future videos. For now, we're trying to take down the enemy Quicksilver, and he's pretty low on health at 1461. Since he uses a Vortex Lariat, he is going to take a counter from our Infiltrator, and that Psychic Tap does enough damage to finish him. Then we're going to maintain Fire Tornado and mainly the counteract tactical maneuvers, and after that we'll use a Signpost and recharge. After this, hopefully we can make it to Emma Frost's turn and she'll take out Psylocke. At least that's the plan. The enemy Psylocke was stunned, and apparently so was Emma. So sadly, with only a few hundred HP, Psylocke gets healed and gets Mirror Reality. Man, talk about a bummer. Well, I guess what I'll do with Phoenix is try to break some shields and we'll trigger Mirror Reality on the agent. So we do land a Telekinesis, and after that we're going to use this Signpost with our agent. This little quick action life drain's actually going to take down Psylocke, and then we're going to use the Fire Tornado, followed by the Deathly Freeze Ray. Once again, not optimal, but we've kind of locked ourselves in that endless Fire Tornado loop. Hopefully, at the worst, the enemy agent only gets 1 more turn, even though we are going to try to stop that first with our Deathly Freeze Ray, and then I decide to outright go for the stun with our War Diamond. With our unlocked potential, this is going to be a critical hit, and then we also happen to have the Bloody AISO on this level too. So the equipped unarmed attack applies bleeding, and after getting the dots, we do get the stun. So we'll finish it off with Phoenix, and that's going to be the end of this fight as well as the video. As always, thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, good luck and take care.